The following message is dedicated to George Heitz. George Heitz was my math teacher. George Heitz went on to be with the Lord today. George Heitz was able to be there for my wedding. George Heitz was a teacher. What is a teacher to you? What is a teacher to me? A good teacher can inspire hope, ignite the imagination, and instill love of learning. Today, Dr. E returns, and I'm going to ask the one question that I think everybody always wonders. Who was your favorite teacher, and how did they inspire you? Have faith, let it begin. Starts right now. Dr. E, little bit of an emotional start there for us because we're usually up and peppy, but late breaking news. Just got a call about an hour ago that a very good gentleman by the name of George Heitz passed away. He was 91 years old, and he is the one that ignited me to love mathematics. And he was also the guy that always told me that I could be anything I wanted to be. And he was the first guy to show me how to use a floppy disk on a computer and load up the screen. That's how far back I go. How are you, Dr. E?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry for your loss and for the loss of so many pupils and students that he must have, helped throughout his career. He sounds like he was a very special man, a very gifted teacher and educator. And it's very nice that we're honoring him on today's podcast.
Definitely. And what's really cool is that, for 20 something years, never knew he was a member of my church. And
No way.
when I went into church one day, I said, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "I'm a member." I go, "Well, I haven't been here in a long time. So, hey." And yeah, he a very faith driven man. He held that, deep inside and didn't try to push that on anyone, but it was nice to know that he had great faith. So, Dr. E, as many of you know, my first grade teacher, Mrs. Klein, she's got a new name, so that's why I'll use her or maiden old name, but she was an inspiration to me, and George was a very big inspiration to me. I'm going to ask you the question, my friend. Did you have a teacher that you can recall that inspired you? Or you may even have two, and that's perfectly okay. The floor is yours, buddy.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Well, Father Tom was my guy. So I went to a technical high school in Paterson, New Jersey, and I was in the electronics, class, or that was what was going to be I guess, my trade. And we had this young brother, his name was Brother Vince, who was probably as horrible a teacher as you could ever think of, a very sadistic and mean and cruel man. And I always wanted to meet him on the street one day so I could punch him right in his suck hole. No, I wouldn't do that, but I would definitely, if he put out his hand, I don't know if I would take it, Angel. That's how much anger I have toward this teacher. And after 2 years of electronics, they brought in a guy from Boston. His name was Father Tom, who was just whatever Vince was, Tom was the absolute opposite. He was quiet, he was kind, he was loving, he was nurturing. He was kind of a real, geeky kind of guy, maybe even a little bit on the spectrum. He never looked you in the eye and that type of thing, but so brilliant and so inspiring. And to the point where he basically put a policy in place that changed my life. So when Brother Vince gave a test, he took great pride in trying to make the average of the test a 30 or make everyone fail the test because, as I said, he was very sadistic and very cruel. And when Father Tom gave a test, what you would do is when you were done with the test, you would go up to him and he would grade the test right in front of you. And if you got 3 questions wrong, he would ask you if you wanted to go back and give it a try. Now, you wouldn't get full credit for it, but what Father Tom was telling us is that he didn't really care about what your grade was, meaning if you got a 90, 95 or whatever, or 75 or an 80, that wasn't his purpose. His purpose was to teach. His purpose was for you to learn. So when you would go back and give it another try, sometimes he would give you a little help or give you a hint. If he did do that, then the amount of credit you would get, say that particular question was worth 10 points. If you got it wrong, but you wanted to give it another try, he might give you 8 points if you got it right, or he might give you 5 points if you needed a little push or whatever. But the point was that what that told me was that here's a guy who really cared about us learning the material, not really caring about anything other than our education and the success of his teaching. And that always stood out for me. And the second thing about him that was so inspiring was he was an absolute computer genius, and he knew computers right at the beginning of computers back in the 1970s. Because he was a priest, all of his patents and all of his ideas and all of his, all of his insights into the computer world would have made him a trillionaire. Honestly, maybe not a trillionaire, but certainly he would have had tens of millions of dollars, working for Microsoft or working for whatever. That's how brilliant he was. But because he took the vow of poverty, as a priest, he never made a dime on his intelligence. So I find people like Father Tom so inspiring that they do it for the right reason. And, and I've, to this day, every time, I'm approached by somebody from my old high school or whatever, and they ask me, hey, you want me to relay you know, any words or any thoughts back to some people, I would say, well, make sure you always tell Father Tom that he was the best teacher I've ever had, one of the best humans I ever met. And I, Angel, have been taught by people who have won Nobel Prizes, people who are absolutely like from Harvard or from Oxford, or you name it, I've had them as my teacher. And no one even can touch Father Tom by even, by a country mile. I spoke a little too much. I apologize, but
No,
that was the guy who inspired me.
no, and that was the purpose, is that, to share a story like that. And I hope that everyone will share that as well. Let me end with this
Well,
because,
actually, before we end, I
yeah,
just want
sure.
to everybody out there, the Have Faith family, if anyone happens to come across a guy named Brother Vince, please tell me where he lives, because I have some unfinished business to hang out with Vince about.
Nice. 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 So, as we stated in the very beginning, I'm going to end today's episode the way we started. George Heitz was a very, very integral part of my math and my studies, and he was just a very inspiring gentleman. He was able to be there with at my wife's and I wedding. But I want to reach out and tell you one of the parts of his obituary that I think is phenomenal. And it goes like this: George taught fourth and fifth graders for many years, spending most of his career at Walden Elementary. He was a graduate of Walden High School when it was a high school. He earned his bachelor's degree from Central College in Iowa and his master's from SUNY New Paltz. After his retirement, he pushed his lifelong interest and craftsmanship, completing an NRA gunsmithing program at Trinidad State College in Colorado. He was also a United States Army veteran. George served at Fort Hakuchua, Arizona, which was an award-winning marksman, competing in the Empire State Games in New York State and the national matches at Camp Perry, Ohio. So he was a longtime member of the Middletown and Ulster County Pistol and Rifle Association. So, his wife and him both were at my wedding. His wife went on to be with the Lord many years ago, and that really hurt his heart because that was the love of his life. They are together. They are together at this very moment, and they're dancing and they're smiling and they're no longer suffering, or they are now at peace. So to all of you teachers out there that don't get the recognition that you deserve, that are still living and still with us, you inspire us. You teach us how to be better people. You prepare us to take on the world. We can go on and talk about how you're underpaid. That goes without certain. But sometimes in life, when you realize the amount of gratitude, the amount of things that you have taught us as children, hopefully will be worth more to you than gold itself. Today, we pray for all teachers that are continuing to do everything they can. We lift up in prayer the family of George, who are mourning and celebrating his life. We also want to lift up Joyce, who I know personally, his daughter, who's done everything for this gentleman. She's a very good daughter, and I'm proud of her and what she did. Well, may God be with each and every one of you. May he shine his light upon you and grant each and every single one of you peace on earth and never forget.
Have faith, let it begin, baby. It's good to be back, Angel.
All right. Take care, everyone.